Under pressure, throws on the run and finds Josh Johnson, and that's another Birmingham touchdown.
The USFL title game is set, but should we just go ahead and crown the Birmingham Stallions as the champions? I'll pose that question to Scott Adamson, who is based in Birmingham and covers the USFL for his website, adamsonmedia.com. It is title time for the USFL. Scott Adamson checking in here. And Scott, did we see the USFL championship Sunday night? It really felt like that was the championship game between New Orleans and Birmingham.
It does. I mean, when you look at it, you would think those were, well, they were the two best teams record-wise. Right. But I think the XFL left us a cautionary tale, though, with what happened between Arlington and D.C. So who knows?
Very, very good point. You were at the game. You're the boots on the ground there in Birmingham. What has the atmosphere there been like? We'll get to the game here in a minute, but what has the atmosphere been like, especially compared to last year? It was kind of a novelty last year, a lot of curiosity factor. It really looked on Sunday on television like it was a good crowd and good atmosphere.
That was, as far as a pro football game in Birmingham, that's the best atmosphere I've been a part of that I can remember in years. Because, as you said, last year it was a novelty, and I think probably their biggest crowd was 17,000, something like that. This, I'm horrible at guessing, but I'm thinking it was at least 20,000, and they were really, really into it. So just even from the press box, you would look around and it felt like a big time atmosphere. And it was really great. I mean, they were kind of hurt, I think, with some of their afternoon games, because you and I were talking before we started recording about how hot it is. And a lot of people, when they can watch a really good production on TV, I think they were picking that over than, other than sitting in the bleachers when it's 90 degrees, at
direct
1 p.m.
sunlight.
Right. But yeah, this was 6 o'clock tip-off Central Time, or tip-off. I'm already thinking about basketball.
Already moved ahead to fall.
Yeah. But, it was a 6 p.m. start, and, they finished in the game in the dark, but there's something about night football that's just more fun to me.
Well, it looked like it was fun out there. You talked about the crowd was into it. Alex Magoo was into it. He was playing to that crowd. What he has done this year, you and I had talked on Twitter about when Jamar Smith got hurt that first game. I said, well, this isn't going to be a championship run for Birmingham this year. And then Alex Magoo turns into the magic of the Magic City. Something happened there.
Yeah, and every single game he's played in, even the 2 losses for Birmingham, he's had an outstanding game. But you just look at his numbers. Yeah. It's just remarkable. And of course, he saved, I guess, his best for his next to last. The way he played against the Breakers. I mean, that was almost like in baseball, a pitcher pitching a perfect game. I mean, he was incredible.
You pointed out in your article that you wrote on adamsmedia.com that, that performance, it was great. There's no question. And you, as you said, he saved his best for next to last. That was just one of many. Anyone who's halfway paid attention to spring football has seen his highlights, but not only his highlights, and he's a dynamic player, but he seems to be a very smart player as well.
He's smart. He obviously has fun, but he's one of those
yes.
team first guys too. And just when you talk to him after practice, he's just, he seems to have as much energy as before he started practice. I mean, he seems to get as much into that as he does the game. So he's one of those guys that you hear Skip Holt say it, and some of his teammates say it. He just brings so much to the locker room. He's a fun guy. He's a winner. And I don't think he's going to be a Stallion next year. I mean, I just got to figure he's going to be in the NFL next season.
Well, and that's what I was going to touch on next, because, you wrote it. I mean, we're all thinking it, and you wrote it in your article that there has to be a spot for this guy in the NFL. And if not, you'd like to see him play in the CFL.
Oh, I would love it. I mean, just the way he moves and everything. And I know it just makes Holtz crazy to see him run like that. But, if you're a quarterback in the Canadian Football League, you've got to do that. And he's just, a lot of times when he'll just make something out of nothing, I'll think, wow, imagine what he would do on a 65-yard wide field.
Oh my goodness. I mean, what he does now is incredible, but that would be something to see. Selfishly, I would love to see him come back to Birmingham, and
me too.
He could be the face of the USFL, if he's not already, and he's one of them. There's no question. Scott, let's take a look at the game Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time on NBC. Canton, Ohio, Pittsburgh, and Birmingham. Again, as you said, the XFL showed us that a team with a losing record can win a championship. But when I look at this matchup, it's interesting because you have the best offense in the league with Birmingham, the best defense in the league with Pittsburgh, but you also kind of on the opposite end for Pittsburgh, you have one of the worst offenses out there. So I'm interested to see what you think this matchup is going to look like in Canton.
Yeah, I mean, if I just had to make a pick, I would think Birmingham's going to win by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
I mean, I just think person for person, they're a much better team. But to Pittsburgh's credit, I mean, this is a team that truthfully I've paid very little attention to throughout the year because I just never thought they were going to be a factor. Same. And then all of a sudden you have a North Division, which, you can say it's weak, and I hate to use that, but record-wise it was. So you get to like week 8 and it's anybody's to win or lose. And then Pittsburgh just comes up. Yeah, they had to get it done with defense, and they had to get it done with their kicker, Blewett, who is just unbelievable.
He's incredible, yeah.
Yeah, terrible name for a kicker, but he's really done a terrific job. So I don't know. Yeah, their offense has been poor, but the Troy Williams, I think he had his best game at quarterback last weekend. So I don't know. I mean, it's there's part of me just being on the outside looking in. I hope it's a tight, close game. The first one or the only one they played this year was close.
It was 24-20 with Birmingham winning that one. And again, your man, Chris Blewett, he was the big factor in that game. Do you take a lot away from a game that was played back in May? I mean, could that have an effect on the big championship game in July? I don't know if there's a lot to take away because it feels like these might be two very different teams that'll meet in the championship.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think that's something you can look at schemes or whatever, but yeah, it was so long ago and there've been injuries and whatnot. So yeah, the teams that are going to be playing Saturday night are much different than the teams that met earlier this year.
I am really looking forward to seeing this game, and I've been happy. Well, first of all, as both of us who are men of a certain age, we are always happy to see a spring football league have a championship game. It made it to the end of the season, but I'm looking forward to it. And when I kind of crystal ball this with the USFL, I talked before about the XFL and its future, which it looks like it is poised to return for a second season. I think there are some very good signs with the USFL right now to return for a third season.
Yeah, it's really remarkable because I mentioned this in a column I wrote a while back. This is the first time I can remember actually being positive about spring football. Looking ahead, I'm looking forward to this championship game, but not in the sense that, wow, this might be the last championship game of the USFL. I don't think it will be. I think they will be back. And as you said, I think the XFL is going to be back. And it's just really mind-boggling that you have 2 professionally run spring teams that are going to return, one for a third season, one for a second. I mean, seriously, just 2 years ago, would you and I ever have thought that was even possible?
No. And for these teams to be on network television, as you said, to be professionally run, to have some financial backing. I really got fooled by the Alliance of American Football. I got sold a bill of goods on that, as a lot of people did, but I thought, it's got CBS's backing. It's got all this. Didn't have any of that. Didn't make it through a season. But then, you have the XFL and they made it through. And really the XFL 2020 was on a good trajectory. COVID was, shut it down, but now we have 2 spring football leagues going. I continue to say it. This is the golden age of spring football. And again, for people like us who remember, back in the day, and you wrote a great book. It's called The Home Team, My Bromance with Off-Brand Football, where you talked about a lot of the leagues that, you grew up with, that you covered. And it seems like a crapshoot on if they get through a full season and get to a championship game. And this has just been, again, I think the golden age for us who love spring football.
Oh, I agree. And it was funny. There's a couple of weeks ago at a game, I was just talking to someone and they said, "Oh, you got to do something about the Stallions for your book. You got to do, a revised edition." Right. And I go, "No, I don't think you understand. If you read my book, these are teams that didn't make it. If I end up writing about the modern Stallions, No, that's a harbinger of their doom. So you don't want that to happen.
Right. And this one's almost on brand. I mean, as far as it, I like what, Fox and NBC going into partnership with this, and the championship game being on NBC. What have been, as we end this season, what have been some of your surprises, maybe good and bad, with what the USFL brought to us in season 2?
Well, certainly I'm biased being based in Birmingham and followed Birmingham, but the fact that the Stallions open the season, they lose 7 starters, I'm thinking that's it. They're going to wind up being maybe 5-5 or whatever, but just the way that they've been able to plug new people in positions and the way people stepped up, whether it was Magoo or just a series of receivers. CJ Marable's come on to do a terrific job, not just at running the ball, but catching it too. And they've just really impressed me. I think even if I was from Detroit and I was looking at this league, I would have to look at Birmingham and think how remarkable it is that they've had so many injuries and faced so much adversity, but they're clearly the best team in the league right now.
Yeah, I mean, as someone from from Kentucky, I can tell you Birmingham has been fun to watch. It has been just an incredible season for them. They look like, as you said, I mean, I think you wrote earlier that a locker room shouldn't look like an emergency room, but that's what it looked like in week 1. And somehow they found the miracle cures and got right to the championship game. So it's got to be fun. Is there another book in this, though? Not a revised edition of all those dead leagues, but is there another book here?
I would think if they made it, just ballpark figure, 5 years, then I think maybe you could start safely thinking, yeah, we ought to sort of do something about the birth and now the life of this particular team. I don't want to get too cocky about anything, right. But I will, when they get to next year and make it through next year, and if they make it through the same as they make it through the first 2 seasons where you don't really have any financial problems, then I'll think, okay, for whatever reason, they figured out how to make this work. They've kind of solved the puzzle, and that would be fantastic to think that going forward, young men, young women, whatever, can grow up, and if they're football fans, that they'll be able to watch some pretty decent football year round.
Well, we've seen it this year, and I would encourage everyone, if you're into spring football, subscribe to Scott's newsletter. You can go to adamsonmedia.com. You can find him on Twitter at AdamsonSL. And not only will you get football coverage, you'll get some of the best short stories you've ever read, and you've got to put these in the book. I'm telling you, please, if there's another book in you, you got to do some of these short stories. They have been really incredible.
Well, I appreciate that very much. My wife keeps telling me that, and I'm thinking, well, I would like to, but the funny thing with me is, I work for newspapers for 30 years. So when it comes to sports writing, I'm fairly comfortable. I'm not saying I'm good, but I'm comfortable. But with fiction, it's just such a brand new thing for me, and it's fun because I'm out of my comfort zone, and just to sort of try new things. I'm glad, you said that you thought some of them were pretty good, and that makes me feel great because I'm basically flying blind into this.
Well, I've enjoyed them. If no one else has, I have, Scott. So, and I've enjoyed this talk too. Appreciate you joining me here.
Oh, anytime, my friends.